Good afternoon, respected friends and viewers. I hope you are all having a wonderful weekend. I'm just getting ready to see if the sound works before we start our episode of Sharia Talk. Just checking if the sound works. Yep. Well, it's wonderful to address you all once again. It's been a very tough week for me. I'd like to begin by thanking all of you who donated towards my security. It means a lot to me. Every cent that I received from the Australian public has indeed touched my heart, and it shows how much this country appreciates peace, preachers of peace, and is awaiting an Islamic reformation. And I promise to never let you down. May God bless you all, and I shall be updating you all with the progress of installing these security grills and security services onto my house, along with the council applications. Before I begin my episode today, I'd like to speak about three very important issues. The first issue is regarding the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. And the second issue is with regards to the comments on jihad made by Sister Linda Sarsour. And thirdly is the statements made by Yasmin Abdel Majid. Starting off with the Canadian Prime Minister, and I'd like to send my regards to all of my friends and supporters from Canada. In 2012 and in 2013, I spent time in Canada. I lived in Ottawa, I lived in Kanata, outside the four belts of the capital city. And I had a wonderful time. I spent over 6 months in Canada. However, I shall never return to Canada for as long as Mr. Justin Trudeau is in office. It is shameful what he has done, giving $10 million to a convicted terrorist just because he can't get a job. Now, I don't want to turn this episode into my political opinions because I'm not a political person. However, what the Canadian Prime Minister has done, and he has pushed a decision through the judicial system and wants to point the finger at the judicial system, saying that it's a decision made by the Canadian courts. That's not right. The Prime Minister has made the decision to keep the matter discreet and hand over $10,000, more than $10,000, to this terrorist, Omar Khadr. And when the information leaked, he turned around and said, well, that's the court decision. And when the country fails to protect the rights of its citizens, then the country has to pay for it. No, it doesn't, Mr. Justin Trudeau. It doesn't have to pay for it. You have to pay for it. If you made a mistake, then your Liberal Party needs to pay for it. You don't take it from the nation's taxpayer money. And if you wanted to be fair, you would give the same amount, equal amounts, to the poor family, the Spear family, of the sergeant that was killed by this convicted terrorist. If your heart is burning because this man cannot find a job because of a mistake your government made or the previous government made, whoever made that mistake, then you employ him in your office. Show us your humanity. You employ him in your office. At least an interpreter. You can turn around and open up a small business for him. If he can't find a job, open a small business for him. Buy him a taxi. Get a $10,000 loan approved for him. Let him go start his own laundromat or something, small business. But don't turn around and give him $10 million, over $10 million from taxpayer money. You have started a culture that will continue now in the West for all of those left people who think just like you. If a terrorist has killed someone and he's gone to jail and now he can't find a job, you don't turn around and give them money. And if you want to give them money, you give them money from your pocket. The same Liberal Party that made that decision loses that money from their pockets. You don't take that money from poor Canadian taxpayer money. That is not right. That's against morals. And you don't do these things. You don't fund these type of people under the blanket and under the umbrella of law and human rights. That what you did was a disgrace and it was shameful. And I have no respect for you whatsoever. I've lost all my respect for you. And because you have done that in protest to your decision, I am not entering Canada for as long as you're in office. And I hope you lose the upcoming elections. The second thing I'd like to speak about is the comments made by Linda Sarsour. Now, I'm a Muslim Imam. I've spent over 10 years studying Islam. When someone says the word jihad, I know what jihad means. I know. I don't need Linda and her fan base and CARE from America, the apologist organization, to turn around and tell me that jihad means struggle. I know it means struggle. Jihad in the Arabic language, in my Arabic language, means, one of its meanings is struggle. But is that what Linda Sarsour meant? Are you taking us for fools? Let's pull out what Linda Sarsour said and put this matter at rest. Listen to what she said.
They are persistent and consistent and want to see how much we as a community can endure and want to see who our friends are and how hard we're going to fight back against this administration. And I hope that when we stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or in the other side of the world, but here in these United States of America where you have fascists.
Linda Sarsour, in the same sentence that she used jihad, she said not only in the Middle East, where they are oppressing tyrants, but here in the United States. Okay, she said the word jihad, and she said not only in the Middle East, but she wants God to accept this jihad of her in the United States. Tell me, Linda Sarsour, what kind of jihad is going on in the Middle East? Is it war and conflict, or is it inner struggle against the tyrant? Which one is it? Because the Middle East, the jihad that's going on in the Middle East against the tyrants, who in your definition would be Israel, and the American troops, and the Australian troops, and the British troops, who you see them as invaders of Muslim land, the type of jihad that is going on in the Middle East is what? Is the jihad of the gun, is the jihad of the bullet, is the jihad of violence. It's not the inner struggle. So when you turn around and you say, may God accept this as a form of jihad, not only the jihad in the Middle East, but now we have jihad she wants jihad in the United States of America, you've already formed the context for what you meant. Don't turn around and say, no, it's been misunderstood. You clearly referred to the Middle East, and the jihad that's in the Middle East is what? Is the jihad of the bullet. It's not the jihad of the struggle. If it was jihad of the struggle, you as a Palestinian, you would have accepted to be a state, you would have accepted a two-state solution and struggled with Israel being your neighbor. But because you know Palestine is Jewish land, and you and your Hamas leaders, national leaders back home, are all oppressors and tyrants, and jihad runs within your blood. And that audience that you addressed, they all know exactly what you meant. And you're all cowards for turning around and abandoning the real context that you were referring to when speaking about jihad. I, as an Imam, I know exactly what you meant. When you make reference to the Middle East and say jihad not only in the Middle East, but jihad in the USA, you're clearly referring to the jihad of the bullet. But when you turn around and say, no, I mean struggle, then you're a coward. You can't stand by your words. And it's a shame that America has to put up with something like you. And if you want to call Donald Trump a a tyrant and a dictator and a white supremacist, let me make something very clear to you, Sister Linda Sarsour. This Donald Trump is a prophet and is an angel compared to your Muslim leaders back home. Is an angel compared to your prophet who is mentioned in the Bukhari, the homosexual terrorist pedophile. This is your book. Come and condemn this book. Come and condemn this book and say the Muhammad in this Bukhari, the most sacred book after the Quran, doesn't represent me. Then we can open a dialogue about who's a tyrant and who's not a tyrant. But if you want to have the audacity to turn around and call for jihad in America and call your president by victory, Sir Donald Trump, a tyrant, it's very good that you look in the mirror yourself before you start pointing fingers at the White House, calling them white supremacists and fascists and Islamophobes. That is wrong. What you are doing is wrong. You're inciting hatred against the majority of people who accepted you in the first place. That is not how you pay back to America. And just because you're born in America doesn't mean you turn around and you betray the country that fed you. You don't spit in the plate that provides you with food. You and your family that came to America, you probably came with that $2 in your pockets, and now you're running campaigns over hundreds of thousands of dollars, taking money from the people. Have some self-respect and stop messing around with the minds of the people in the West. Now I'd like to speak about Sister Yasmin Abdul Majid before I begin my Sharia talk. This whole idea that she's the Australia's most hated Muslim. She says in her own words, and the ABC is pushing that idea that we oppressed her. Who are you fooling? Who are you fooling in the first place? You come on a channel and you express your point of view under the freedom of free speech. Free speech means when you say something, someone can criticize you. When someone criticizes you for saying something, that's also free speech. And when you're criticized, it doesn't mean you're being criticized because you're black and you're a Muslim and you're a female and everyone else is white. That is wrong. That is wrong. The fact that you've been feeding off taxpayer money this entire time is more than enough evidence that Australia is not a racist country. Nobody is racist. In fact, half the Muslim community rejects you and rejects your opinions. This is not a feminist religion we're dealing with. It is certainly not the most feminist religion we're dealing with. You're coming up with arguments that are indeed very hard to sell, extremely hard to sell, and you think the Australian majority are uneducated and are supposed to accept everything you say. They're very well educated, and they will have people like me who will expose the truth about the faith that you believe in. So please don't turn around and call the Australian people racist and people who spew hate at you just because you have an opinion that offends everybody else. And that's all I have to say about Yasmin Abdul Majid for today. The culture of child rape. Last episode I spoke about the book by Khomeini, Tahrir al-Wasila, and how he allows the thighing, lustful hugging and touching of young girls from the age of 0, 1, newborn, up until the age of 9. And these Facebook pages turned around and said, look, Imam Tawhidi is exposing these corrupt scholars and these corrupt fatwas. But this hypocritical games, this man is a Shia. So this corrupt man who allows pedophilia, he's a Shia Muslim. And I come from a Shia faith. So I'm criticizing my own faith. But we have to be fair. My faith is a minority. If we want to reform Islam, we need to deal with the giants. We also need to refer to the majority of Muslims. Now I'd like to show you from the Sunni school of thought, because we've been speaking about the Shia school of thought this entire time, and I showed you the statements. Now for those who weren't with us, I'd like to read it again for you. It says here in Tahrir al-Wasila, Volume 2, a book published by Imam Khomeini, the leader of the Islamic Revolution of Iran and the teacher of the current tyrant. Page 255, Sharia law number 12. He says it is not permissible to penetrate, engage in sexual intercourse with a wife that is younger than 9 years old, whether it be permanent or temporary marriage. وَأَمَّا سَائِرِ الْإِسْتِمْتَاعَاتِ, and as for other means of sexual pleasure, such as touching with lust, hugging with sexual desires, and thighing, which basically means the baby is laid on its back, or the 9-year-old is laid on its back, its thighs are crossed together, and the male penetrates the thighs. This is what thighing means. This man says all of these three, the touching and the hugging with lust and thighing of the 9-year-old, there's no problem in that. فَلَا بَأْسَ بِهَا, says there's no problem with that. حَتَّى فِي الرَّضِيعَةِ, even with the newborn child. And then he speaks about how this young girl can be passed on from one man to another and so on. And it's all in detail in my previous Sharia law episode where we covered this matter. This was just a recap for those who have missed it. Now let us take a look at Al-Walid bin Talal, who is one of the richest people on earth. Walid bin Talal, this clown from the Saudi Arabian kingdom. This here is the logo, and I want Donald Trump, Sir Donald Trump, I want you to take a look at this. This here is the logo of Al-Walid bin Talal. This book is published by the organization of Walid bin Talal, and this book is probably one of the most important books when it comes to Bab al-Talaq, the chapter of divorce, speaking about marriage. And these are scans from his book, because I don't have it with me now, but I can, if anyone doubts, I can order the book and we'll open the book and I'll show the camera the same way I've been showing you all of these books. It's not a big deal. I can easily get the book, but scans are a lot easier. So this book is called رد على الدر المختار, published in the year 1252 Hijri Islamic calendar. And this very author is a well-respected author, and when referring to the matter of divorce, this book is always referred to in the universities when writing a thesis. Students refer to this book, which is why Walid bin Talal has published this book again. Donald Trump, I'd like you to see what this clown has to say. This is the clown that mocks you and ridicules you. In volume 5, and this is a scan from volume 5, volume 5, page 283, the chapter of divorce, he states, فإن السمينة الضخمة تحتمل الجماع ولو صغيرة السن. Al-Walid bin Talal publishes a book that says the fat baby female girl toddler, because she is thick-boned and fat, she can endure, she is able to endure sexual intercourse. Why? Because she is fat. A fat toddler, a skinny toddler will die, according to this book that was published by the organization of Walid bin Talal. An old book, a very old book, an old book by one of the Islamic scholars, the Muhammad Amin bin Umar, right? This book, and many people have been writing commentaries on this book, such as Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Rafi'i, and this book has been published and gifted by Walid ibn Talal. This is the scan of the book, and this is what the book promotes: that little girls, newborn girls, if they are fat and chubby and thick boned, then they can endure sexual intercourse. So please go ahead. This is what is being taught in the Saudi Arabian schools. This here is another book called Mughni al-Muhtaj, and it's published by Al-Imam al-Shafi'i. This is volume 3, published by Dar al-Ma'rifa. Volume 3, page 243. Volume 3, page 243. He says over here: بل وطئها محلل وإن كانت طفلة لا يمكن جماعها. That it is okay to penetrate and engage in sexual intercourse even if the baby is incapable of intercourse. Why? Because the little baby is the wife of an elderly man, and an elderly man has rights. So according to the violent Sharia law, the little baby needs to give the rights of a man, and part of the rights of a man is to have sex with the wife. And if she doesn't have sex with him, then he rapes her, and if she can't handle the rape, then tough luck. It's in our books. I'd like to see the sons of Umar take this clip and go spread it. Come on, Muslims, if you're so happy with your current situation and you don't want reformation, okay, then let us show the people. Why are you upset with me? Let's show the people what's in our books. If you're so happy with the religion and what's going on, and you don't believe we're in need of reformation, let me show the public. I'll show the public. I'm not making this up. These are books I can order at any time, and they're available online, and they're available on all of your websites, and these are fatwas available on all of the websites of the Grand Muftis. We're not here imagining things. If you're so happy with your religion in the current state, okay, let's show the people. Why are you hiding this from the people? Let's show the people. Let's show them. Let's see how happy you are now. This book called Rawdat al-Talibin, and it was published by Al-Dimashqi, Al-Imam Al-Dimashqi, one of the greatest scholars of Islam, who passed away in the year 676. And then this has been also approved by Al-Imam Al-Nawawi, also one of the greatest. This is volume 4, published by Dar Alam Al-Kutub. And when we come to the chapter of Waqf, it says here in page 379 of volume 5, 379, volume 5, it clearly states كما يجوز نكاح الرضيعة, just like how it is permissible to engage in sexual intercourse with a baby so young it's still being breastfed. Now we have here Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. These two books are the most sacred books after the Holy Quran. Sahih Muslim by the commentary of An-Nawawi, one of the greatest scholars of Islam, An-Nawawi. And this was published in 1929. This is volume 9 from the commentary on Sahih Muslim, page 206. Over here, as you can see. And basically he says, if the parents of the young baby toddler that is younger than 9 years old agree that the little girl should have sex with her husband, then there is no problem in that. And the one who allowed this is the great Imam Malik for the Maliki Muslims, Shafi'i for the Shafi'i Muslims, and Abu Hanifa for the Hanafi Muslims. And there is no problem in that. وَهَذَا هُوَ الصَّحِيحِ. And he says, and this is what is right, and this is what is appropriate. That if the father says to the husband of his newborn girl, take my newborn girl and have sex with her, then there is no problem in that, according to the majority of Muslims. This is not minority talk. This is the majority of Muslims. This is the faith of the majority of Muslims. And this here is the faith of the minority of Muslims. Therefore, the culture of rape extends to all of these 73 denominations within Islam. And we are in need of serious reformation. We are in need of serious and urgent reformation. And just like how we have liberated our lands from ISIS, from the violent rape and torture and misuse and abuse of female bodies by ISIS, we need to liberate our minds and our books and our libraries and our mosques. Otherwise, our ideologies will be the ideologies of ISIS. However, our environments will look like Europe. We will live as barbaric people holding terrorist ideologies in the West. Therefore, reformation is very important, and it is an urgent need. May God bless you all. I am also really sorry for coming out earlier than expected, but it's due to security reasons. And I leave you with the prayers and blessings of God Almighty, and I hope to see you soon once again. Have a lovely night. God bless and goodbye.